Okay, thank you everyone for coming out to another session of the House Committee on Finance. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll to determine a quorum,
Chairman
please?
Abney,
Present.
Vice Chair Slater,
Present.
Vice Chair Mazurkowski,
Present.
Representative Morey,
Present.
Representative Baginski, Representative Barrows, Representative Diaz, Representative Edwards,
Present.
Representative Hall,
Present.
Representative Nadone, Representative O'Brien,
Present.
Representative Quattrucci,
Present.
Representative Ruggiero, Representative Tabone, Representative Vella Wilkinson, and Representative Barrows.
Present.
Okay, thank you. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. Today's hearing is strictly limited to the verbal testimony from those witnesses we did not get to last Thursday on bills 5628, 5715, 5787, 5809, 6046. As you know, we had over 300 people signed up for public testimony last week, with most of that concentrated on these 5 bills, and we did not get to all of them. So tonight, as before, everyone will be limited to under 2 minutes because we still have hundreds to go. You'll be held under 2 minutes for a really good reason, and that's so we can get the others, your neighbors in too. Okay, Mr. Clerk, on the phones, could we start? We're establishing contact with our first caller. And all of the callers who are still waiting, just remember, please, that when you hear the sound, it'll be time's up. Okay, welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me today. My name is Lily Kirby. I am an organizer of the George Wiley Center, and I'm just here to speak out in favor of the Percentage of Home Income Affordability Energy Act. Utility policy and access to affordable utilities is an essential part of access to housing. And as we've seen during the pandemic, it's really only demonstrated how access to gas, service, electric service, and water service are basic human needs. And the Percentage of Home Income Energy Affordability Act will make sure that people are able to pay reasonable percentages of their income to meet their needs instead of upwards of 44% of income that low-income folks in our state can be spending just to keep the essential services on. So I'll let the testimony speak for themselves this afternoon, but I thank you for your time, and I highly encourage you to please pass the Percentage of Home Income Affordability Act. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to testify. We appreciate it. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Hi, my name is Michael Carney, and I live in Providence, and I'm here to testify for the Medicare for All bill that's before the committee. So I don't think I need to tell any of you how broken the system is. We all have bad experiences with the healthcare system in this country, and we've tried reforming it, and this system is just broken beyond reform. I was trying to think about what story I would share with you all today, but I couldn't decide on just one, and so I want to share a couple with you.
You have about 30 seconds to do that, sir. We're holding under 2 minutes, please.
Okay, so there was a time when my friend was sick and needed an ambulance, and he had health insurance, but we didn't know if his family could afford the copay for the ambulance. So we waited it out, and he luckily survived. There was a time when a cafe accidentally put milk in my coffee, and I'm allergic to dairy, and I sat outside the bench, out on the bench outside the cafe, struggling to breathe, deciding whether or not I should use my EpiPen or whether I could make it with just Benadryl and save $150. Luckily, I survived. There was a time when my mom got a letter in the mail not a week after my dad died suddenly, letting her know that to keep health insurance for our family with Cobra, she would have to pay $4,000 a month. That's insanity. When I was trying to decide between health insurance plans in the marketplace this year, I had to choose which of my medications I wanted to be covered and which I would have to pay out of pocket for because no plan that I could afford covered all of them. We've reformed the healthcare system in recent years, but it's still not working. It's time to move to a universal coverage system which will improve outcomes and cost less money for Rhode Island taxpayers. It's a total no-brainer, and you need to pass this bill now, or else people will continue to die.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it. Next caller, please. Again, we're trying to establish contact with our customers. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Nina Wolflandau. I'm here to testify tonight as a resident of Providence in support of House Bills 5628, 6046, and 5449 around Medicare for All. I'm also here tonight to testify in support of 5809 regarding the Percentage of Income Home Energy Affordability Act. I'll start with my testimony in regards to Medicare for All. I'm sure you've heard lots of really compelling testimony from my fellow residents, so I will keep mine brief. Too many people do not have access to good health care, and everyone has a story about how they delayed essential health care or refused to get health care because they could not afford it. Creating the Rhode Island Comprehensive Health Insurance Program would make sure that every Rhode Islander would have access to health care that is free at the point of service. Especially during our pandemic, we need to make sure that every Rhode Islander can get access to all essential health services without going into medical debt. You've heard other people share the numbers, and in Rhode Island, nearly 50% of people are underinsured, meaning they do not seek healthcare services because of cost. And over 40,000 are uninsured, and these are all numbers pre-COVID. We have the chance with these three pieces of legislation to take real action to support access to healthcare for all Rhode Islanders. It's unconscionable that we in Rhode Island continue to prioritize the profits of healthcare companies over the lives and well-being of the people who live here. The costs of not acting are far too high. The people of Rhode Island continue to show up to testify, despite the fact that it's not easy to find the information, despite the fact that we may be called at any time, and we really need action across these important pieces of legislation. In regards to House Bill 5809, regarding to the Percentage Income Home Energy Affordability Act, like healthcare, access to utilities are part of basic needs for Rhode Islanders, and this legislation has been supported by a number of important organizations, and this advocacy has taken years and years, and it continues to be held for further study and not move forward. This is basic common sense legislation. Poor Rhode Islanders should not be paying more than their fair share for utilities, and no one should have utilities shut off on them.
Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it. Thank you. Next caller, please.
Mr. Chairman, while we're waiting, can I be recorded as being present?
Yes, could you record the barristers being present? And Chairwoman Ruggiero. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Yes, hello. My name is Louise Barba. I'm speaking on behalf of myself. Good evening to the committee members. I just wanted to express my desire that this legislation not pass. I firmly believe in the sanctity of all human life from conception until natural death, and each human being is distinct, each in our own way, and there's no less value to a person because of starting their life in a difficult or a painful situation. I think of Annie Sullivan, who came from parents, and she was placed in the Tewksbury Home for the Poor as a blind child in Massachusetts, but she had the opportunity to go to the Perkins School for the Blind, and then became one of the most noteworthy educators for her working with Helen Keller, who was both blind and deaf, and a story that inspired the world, and also Stephen Jobs, who was given up for adoption because of difficulties, a situation for his mother and father, and then all of the great contribution to the world of Stephen Jobs. So even though a child in the womb could be in a problematic situation, does not mean that they don't have great value and gifts to offer to the world. And I encourage you to vote. Hello? Am I still
yes.
on here?
You're still on, but your time is up at this point. So thank you for your testimony. Thank you.
Oh, yes. Good night now.
Good night. Next caller, please.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and testimony, please.
Yes, I'm Anita Husky.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you. And I really want to just give you some of my expressions against abortion. It is destroying life of those who would come. It's murder. You're cutting up babies' body parts, killing our future generation for profit. It's inhumane. And euthanasia for the elderly is God's work only. May the Lord bless all those and help to stop abortion. Thank you.
And thank you for your testimony. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your testimony and your name and brief testimony, please.
Good evening, Chairman Abney and members of the House Finance Committee. My name is Frank Palazzo, and I'm a resident of Cranston, and I'm an employee at Coca-Cola Beverages in Northeast Facility in Providence, Rhode Island, and I am here in opposition to Bill 5715, and here's some reasons why. The local restaurants and small businesses we work with here were hit very hard over the past 14 months of the pandemic. And for that reason, I don't understand why the General Assembly is trying to pass a new beverage tax that would impose higher taxes at restaurants, grocery stores, convenience stores that can at least afford it. This was a tax that was tried in Philadelphia, a similar one, with devastating results. People there started shopping in the suburbs and in New Jersey. Grocery stores saw beverages sales dropped 47%. Sales went all to the outside of the city for about the same amount percent. Total purchases decreased in the stores in the city and increased in the suburbs, meaning people were purchasing their whole grocery list outside their normal, outside the city, so they were in the suburbs. This caused job losses, therefore there was layoffs in beverage industry, truckers lost their driving hours, and workers in grocery stores saw their weekly hours cut. Grocery stores, and there was one grocery store in a low-income area that was shut down entirely due to the sales loss. I shouldn't be in danger of losing my job because of a tax passed by the General Assembly. Let's not repeat the mistakes of Philadelphia. Thank you for listening to my testimony, and I once again urge you to reject House Bill 5715. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. We appreciate your testimony, sir. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Good evening, Chairman Abney and members of the House Finance Committee. My name is Chris Perry. I work as a sales merchandiser for Coca-Cola Beverages Northeast in Providence, and I'm a resident of Barrington. I'm testifying today to urge you to oppose House Bill 5715. This is a tax that will put my job and my coworkers' jobs at risk. Every day, my peers and I work hard to load the grocery store shelves with a variety of different beverages. We take great pride in the work we do, and it is upsetting to have our industry singled out for an issue that is very complex. I interact with the public every day, and I can tell you more taxes are not what people need as we try to get back to normal life. Thank you for the opportunity to share my position, and I urge you to oppose House Bill 5715 that will cost jobs for myself and my peers. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to testimony. We appreciate it. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony.
Good evening, Chairman Abney and the members of the House Finance Committee. My name is Mark Gustinelli. I'm an account manager for Coca-Cola in Providence and a resident of Warwick. I'm testifying today to urge you to oppose House Bill 5715, a large unfair beverage tax that will hurt Rhode Island working families, small local businesses, and their employees the hardest. In my current job, I visit many small businesses every day. The convenience stores and restaurants I'm so fortunate to serve are just beginning to emerge from a period of unprecedented challenges. They've worked hard to survive, and imposing a new tax on everyday beverages that will hurt their business is hard to understand. We should be doing everything we can to help them grow their business. And quite frankly, this beverage tax will put them at risk of closing their doors for good when their customers pivot to other states to buy less expensive food and drink. Now would be the worst time to impose a tax that places a larger burden on the people least able to afford it and threaten jobs like mine. Thank you for the opportunity to share my position, and I urge you to oppose House Bill 5715 that will cost jobs for myself and my peers. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for taking the time to testify. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony.
Good evening, Chairman Abney and members of the House Finance Committee. My name is Ryan Carlson, a resident of Warwick, and also an employee at the Coca-Cola Beverages Northeast facility in Providence. I am urging to oppose House Bill 5715, as this is a bill that unfairly singled out myself and my coworkers. In my job, I visit many supermarkets and stores every day, and I assure you the people I meet do not want to pay more taxes on beverages they purchase. They are appreciative of the work we did to keep their shelves full over the past year and optimistic that things will go back to normal soon. Having to pay more taxes on the groceries they purchase every week is an unfair burden when people can least afford it. I'm thankful that I've been able to work during the recent pandemic, and it is very concerning that as we emerge from it, that I now have to worry about my livelihood being threatened. We need to ease our burdens, not add to them, so we can all return to a normal and prosperous life. Please consider myself and my peers as I urge you to oppose House Bill 5715. Thank you and be safe.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it, sir. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony.
Hi, this is Daniel Kroll. I'm calling from Smithfield. I'd like to testify in favor of 5628, bill for a single-payer healthcare system in Rhode Island. I think that this is really necessary given the number of people who, although even under our current system, there are people who are uninsured. There are also people who have very poor coverage by their insurance and lots of unaffordable out-of-pocket expenses. I know this personally when friends of mine who've been at a very good psychiatric hospital in Massachusetts. A lot of people who were not able to finish the program because the insurance companies kicked them out, and their psychiatrists had to be constantly on the phone with the insurance companies. Meanwhile, the patients who were coming from Canada, their government paid for them to be there for the full 3 months for however much time they needed for treatment, and that's really what it should be for U.S. citizens as well. And I think the system is something that can definitely be done on the state level. We already have evidence of that the Medicare system in Canada was started in a province, Saskatchewan, that was about the same size as Rhode Island. So there aren't logistical hurdles to doing this. It's really a political issue, and I just really want to encourage people to support this bill, that our politicians can get it out of committee and to a vote.
Thank you for your testimony. We will appreciate it, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony.
Hi, folks. My name is Douglas Taylor, and I'm calling in support of the bills to establish a Rhode Island Medicare scheme and to also audit the MCOs. To get down to brass tacks, I just want to say that the pandemic has proven that we need to repair the frayed and wholly safety net in our country, and I think Rhode Island, as a smaller state, has a unique opportunity to do so. And we're more nimble and able to leverage this sort of initiative into building new solutions that can both help people live with dignity and with health, and to also spur economic growth and development by getting an option other than employer healthcare insurance or COBRA, which has been proven to be quite expensive for a lot of people and is ultimately not a tenable option, and is also constantly under attack at the federal level. So I personally have a relationship to this because I live with someone who suffers from a chronic illness, and I don't think it's fair that the American healthcare system punishes her for having a disease that she never chose to have, and so that is why I want the committee to lend their support to these bills and to help streamline and make better our healthcare scheme here in the state. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony. We really appreciate it. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony.
Good evening, Chairman Abney and members of the House Finance Committee. I am urging you to oppose House Bill 5715, a large unfair tax beverage that will hurt Rhode Island working families, small local businesses, and their employees the hardest. My name is James Machado. I'm a resident in Bristol and an employee of the Coca-Cola Beverages Northeast facility in Providence. This new tax will put my job at risk by placing an unnecessary financial burden on restaurants, convenience stores, and grocery stores we sell to. Last year, while the state and county shut down, my co-workers and I still came to work. We worked to make sure that grocery store shelves were stocked with important products for Rhode Island families like juices, bottled water, milk, sports drinks. Beyond our day jobs, our industry was there for our communities, using our plastic to create face shields for hand sanitizer bottles, for frontline healthcare workers, delivering drinks and coffee to first responders and medical teams, supplying technology to kids who suddenly went from classroom to virtual learning at home, and more. Rhode Islanders have suffered job loss and business closings because of these lockdowns brought on by the pandemic. I am thankful that I still have mine. We need to ease our burdens, not add to them, so we can recover from this historic economic downturn. Thank you for your time, and I urge you to oppose House Bill 5715.
Thank you for your information, sir. We appreciate it.
Do you need those
Thank you.
citations today?
Next caller.
Good.
Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Hello, my name is Marco David Carrasco. Currently a resident of Cranston. I'm testifying in support of House Bill 5628. Too many Rhode Islanders lack adequate health care. Almost half of Rhode Islanders are forced to forego medical treatment due to high deductibles and co-pays. Under our current system, health care is often tied to employment, often jeopardizing people's coverage during tumultuous times like this past year. This is despite the expansion of health care under the Affordable Care Act and continues to be the case even during a pandemic. Passing this legislation would provide peace of mind to myself and so many other Rhode Islanders who often hesitate to have health issues checked out due to deductibles and copays. It would also provide further peace of mind in knowing that if I came to suffer from a serious health medical condition, I would not risk joining the millions of Americans with medical debt, something that you don't see in the rest of the industrialized world. It would mean that family and friends of mine who lack adequate health insurance could finally get the treatment they need. Our state needs to stop prioritizing the greed of private health insurance companies and start prioritizing the needs of its residents, especially during a pandemic which has cost so many lives and caused so much suffering. Pass this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it. Next caller. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and testimony, please.
Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Ian Lawson. I'm a resident of Warren, and I am testifying on behalf of myself in support of Bill H5628 to create a Medicare for All system in Rhode Island. For starters, I believe the research that says a Medicare for All type system will reduce healthcare costs overall in the state, but I want to talk about the other reasons why this bill makes sense to me. Primarily, I want to see healthcare decoupled from employment. Employment today is hardly stable. Life circumstances change without warning, industries are being shaken up. By tying healthcare to employment, we are hampering our workers' ability to react to common life circumstances and a rapidly changing employment landscape, and they're suffering real harm as a result. And that's just talking about employees fortunate enough to even get decent healthcare from their employer in the first place. For too many people, there are just no options for healthcare that make financial sense. People are left in a situation where the only rational decision is to gamble with their own health, give up preventative care and screenings, and just hope their luck holds out. We know statistically this leads to worse health outcomes and much higher healthcare expenditures in the long run. And that's only going to be changed by creating a better system that doesn't let so many fall through the cracks. I'm primarily focused on the well-being of workers here, but I would argue that we are also hurting small businesses and owners by forcing them to compete on healthcare with large corporations that can administer complicated benefits package at much lower costs. Why not let small business owners focus more on their operations and put resources into competitive wages, customer service, and innovation?
Thank you for your testimony, sir.
Thank you.
Next caller. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Hello, my name is Bruce Borowski. I am a resident of Providence. I wanted to thank the chairman and committee members. As I said, my name is Bruce Borowski. I am a resident of Providence, and I'm here to testify in support of House Bill 5628. The need for this bill is illustrated by two sobering statistics you've probably heard before. As you know, there are currently more than 40,000 Rhode Islanders who are uninsured. Another 400,000 have insurance policies with high deductibles or little coverage. That is, they are underinsured, meaning that many in our state only seek treatment when an emergency makes them do so. I want to ask you to pause a moment to consider the problem of underinsurance in particular. For some time, the cause of widespread underinsurance has been clear to many observers of healthcare in America. Workers who get their insurance through their jobs are now finding that employers are asking them to pay a larger and larger share of the coverage. For those who get insurance through the Affordable Care Act, can often have annual deductibles of $6,000 or higher. Now, as these trends become more pronounced, the effects are not hard to predict, not only on Rhode Island families, but also on the state's future. If left to continue, these trends will become a crisis, a fiscal crisis, and the state will find itself with greater fiscal demands on emergency care and long-term medical needs. This doesn't have to become a crisis, of course. A Medicare for All style program addressing the problem before it becomes too late, out of control, that would be the most simple, efficient, and humane way to make sure all in Rhode Island get the health care they deserve. And with that, I ask you to support House Bill 5628.
Thank you for your testimony. We really appreciate it. Next caller.
Oh. Okay. All right. No, I appreciate that. Sorry about that.
Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to all the members of the committee. My name is Dr. Sam Donovan. I am a chief resident in the Family Medicine Residency Program at Brown University, and I'm here to voice my strong support for H 5787, the Equality in Abortion Coverage Act. My friend Dr. Kate Bergen has also submitted written testimony on behalf of many of our family medicine colleagues. As a family doctor in training, I've spent long hours over the last 3 years caring for Rhode Islanders of all ages as they navigate a lot of life's challenges and joys, from delivering babies at Women and Infants, to counseling a teenager with depression at our clinic in Pawtucket, to guiding a family through the transition to hospice care for their loved ones at the Miriam Hospital. This is primary care, and if you're a human being, I'm trained to be your ally in navigating difficult decisions about your health. Reproductive health care, including safe abortion care, is primary care. My patients trust me to accompany them as they make life-altering decisions about their health. The decision to terminate a pregnancy is no exception. When I'm sitting across from a patient who's making this monumentally difficult decision, I should not have to ask what insurance coverage she has or tell her that she can't access the same services as the privately insured patient across town. I support the Equality in Abortion Coverage Act because I believe that all Rhode Islanders deserve access to the full spectrum of safe, compassionate care that me and my colleagues have dedicated our lives to provide. Thank you all very much for your time tonight. I appreciate you.
Thank you for your testimony, sir. We appreciate yours. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Hi, my name is Will Caldwell. I live and work in Providence. I am calling to support 5628, Medicare for All at the local level, as well as the 2 audit bills for the insurances. I'm a licensed social worker. I work in the hospital system and just every day see absolute bizarreness with our insurance, our insurance system. It is unfair to middle and working class people. I used to work with the homeless as a social worker, and I always found it ironic that ex-convicts, including rapists and pedophiles, would have Medicare, while in the hospital, sometimes the per diem CNAs or the per diem social worker would not have health care. I mean, the irony of working people not getting rewards while the poorest are able to get it. Second, my second reason for this is that it just hasn't worked. The Obamacare thing has just made a monopolistic system that every year just seems to get more unregulated and more expensive, giving people less. Please give us an option at our own local state level to create something of our own that can compete with the insurance companies. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you for your testimony. We really appreciate it, sir. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Hello, my name is Samantha Weiser, and I'm testifying on behalf of the Rhode Island Democratic Women's Caucus tonight in support of H 5787, 5628, 6046, and 5449.
Proceed.
Great, thank you. So the Rhode Island Democratic Women's Caucus seeks to impact government and political processes in order to ensure equality in power, influence, and economic status for those who identify as and with women. To that end, the Rhode Island Democratic Women's Caucus is strongly in support of Bills 5787, 5628, 6046, and 5449. All women and childbearing people should be able to access affordable abortion services if they need them. 5787, the Equality in Abortion Coverage Act, ensures that essential health care cannot be denied based on whether your insurance is public or private. This very body has protected abortion as an important medical procedure, and Roe v. Wade enshrouds it federally. Yet still here in our state, abortion services are not covered through state plans, including Medicaid. We must address this inequitable system and the health disparity it creates in blocking access to care, especially for low-income people. As well, the Women's Caucus supports 6046 and 5449 to study Medicaid privatization costs as well as actually to privatize. And the Women's Caucus strongly supports 5628, Medicare for all. The U.S. is the only industrialized nation in the world that does not have a universal health care program that essentially functions as single payer. We pay double per capita for health care for what other countries pay, and we have worse health care outcomes. This is a women's issue. In the U.S., infant mortality is 5.9 per 1,000 live births, almost double that in countries like Australia, Italy, and Sweden. And even more shockingly, maternal mortality is 26.4 per 1,000, which is 3 to 6 times higher than other countries like France, Canada, and Germany. Again, we pay double for that health care.
Another 15 seconds, please.
Excuse me?
Another 15 seconds, please. Everybody's under 2 minutes today, ma'am.
Even if you're testifying on multiple bills?
Yep. Yes.
I will keep it short. I will
Thank
finish
you.
up.
We appreciate it.
Single payer is the only national plan for health care reform that explicitly includes women's reproductive services, including abortion. And to ensure true equality in power, influence, and economic status, we must provide health care to all equally. On a personal note, I'm a type 1 diabetic, and in what world is it just that I pay $20,000 a year for health care? In what world can chronically ill people feel like they can accomplish the American dream when our baseline costs of living are so much higher? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Well, Mr. Chairman, my name is Louis Munoz. I'm a member of the Rhode Island State Equity Council, resident of Pawtucket, and a medical doctor speaking as an individual today. I'm calling to support H5449 6046 and in the spirit of 5628 to create a single-payer system here in the state of Rhode Island. While my testimony will focus on the latter, with hopes that we can also address investments that we should make in community health infrastructure, which would complement a single-payer system with a stronger healthcare delivery system that is free, accessible, and equitable. Healthcare is a human right, and this pandemic has made the case that it's time to solidify that principle into law and into the systems that operate underneath our laws here in Rhode Island. Too often we submit to the idea that because we are a wealthy country with a strong health system, or some strong health systems, that we are immune to rationing care and undercutting quality. That is not the case. In 2020, our health systems could not mobilize resources fast enough. As a consequence of logistical bottlenecks and profit-driven bidding wars between states, we saw health systems ration supplies and care, which begs the question, was it ever a lack of resources or simply the consequence of an industry framework that is not designed to save profit before lives? From novel administrative systems to aggressive cost controls on pharmaceutical pricing, there are single-payer models around the world that we can learn from, that we can design a version that works from Rhode Island, so that we can, that is. I'd also like to add that other intermediary organizations, including group purchasing organizations and pharmacy business management companies such as CVS's Caremark, are contributing to the rising cost of care and medications. By having a system that takes the negotiation power away from those middle companies and puts it back into the public's hands, we can get one step closer towards having a sustainable single-payer system here in the state of Rhode Island. Please don't wait until it's your child that's fighting for the right to be healed. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your testimony, sir. We appreciate it. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Okay, hi. My name is Katherine Preston, and I'm a graduate student at Brown, and I live in Providence, Rhode Island. And I'd like to testify in support of Senate Bill H5628. And I just like to say, I'm a grad student, and I go to Brown, and I actually think I have relatively good health care coverage, but I don't have a lot of money because I'm a grad student. And just this year, I had to have a pretty common procedure done, And, you know, I'm pretty smart, and I couldn't figure out what this was going to cost me, and it ended up, after the fact, costing me $300 that I wasn't expecting just for this one single procedure. And that was a major expense for me in my budget. And again, like, I have comparatively good health care, so I just think this is an example of kind of how bad the healthcare scene is. And, you know, so I'm asking you to please fix this and simplify this by giving us universal healthcare coverage in Rhode Island. And that's pretty much all I have to say, except just the last thing that I wanted to add is, you know, I have quite a bit of flexibility, and this call, you know, was supposed to be a different day, and I was able to take it, you know, in this window. And I'm really glad that I've had the opportunity to talk to you, but I just want to sort of mention that there are a lot of people who don't have this kind of flexibility and can't, you know, make the time or don't have the words even to testify. But those people don't have health care, or they don't have good health care, but they're still your constituents, and they still vote. So I just wanted to mention them and bring them up. But that's all. Thank you very much for your time and for listening to me.
Thank you for your testimony. We really appreciate it. Take care. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony.
Hi, my name is Thomas Sicosio, and I am here to testify as a citizen of Warwick, Rhode Island, in support of House Bill 5628.
Proceed, please.
Okay. Rhode Islanders are strong. We've survived blizzards, hurricanes, nor'easters, and whatever else the world can throw at us. The ocean state knows how to adapt and overcome. Rhode Island has been fighting one of the biggest battles in its history. The COVID pandemic has ravaged the state harder than any natural disaster. The hurricane of 1938 killed around 600 people throughout New England. The blizzard of 78 killed about 100. The COVID pandemic in Rhode Island alone has killed over 2,500 people. After the damage caused by Hurricane Carol, Providence built a $16 million flood barrier and has not been flooded since. If a hurricane that killed 19 can trigger large-scale restructuring of the waterfront, a pandemic killing thousands can trigger large-scale restructuring of the healthcare system. Between February and May of 2020, about 21,000 Rhode Island residents lost their jobs and their health insurance. By mid-2020, the number of uninsured people rose 40%, according to Families USA. In 2019, HealthSource Rhode Island says 30.4%, around 300,000 people were underinsured. Much like Providence prior to the flood barriers, Rhode Island's community health plans have too many holes. There's no better time for us to reform something that has become increasingly broken and essential during this pandemic. Like the barriers on Fox Point did for floods, Medicare for All in Rhode Island can help us prevent another health crisis in the future. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it. Okay, next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
My name is Christina, and I am testifying on Bill H5787. I am in opposition to this bill, and I'm urging you to vote against it and to oppose it. Abortion is not safe, legal, and rare, and they keep claiming my body, my choice, and I do not want my taxpayer dollars to go towards abortion, because my choice is not to fund abortion, not to support it, and I do not want my money to go towards it. Instead, I would love it if funding could go towards pregnancy centers like the Mother of Life Center and the Little Flower Home, Rhode Island Right to Life. There's so many other ones that really need support and need financial assistance, and that would be great if that could be supported. So I do not want my taxpayer dollars going towards this bill.
Thank you, Christina. We appreciate your testimony. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony.
Yes, my name is Denise Sathier, and I'm a resident of Borowski, Rhode Island. I oppose to taxpayers' money paying for abortions. We need to respect all lives from conception until death. A brief testimony of my own. I'm in the car wash right now. I'm so sorry. We're coming to the end. Give me one moment, please. I am 61 years old, and I've worked since I've been 15 years old. My tax dollars, as I stated, I do not want to be appropriated for abortion. But along with that, I would like to share with everyone, my mom is still living. She's 95 years old. Back in 1959, she was 3 days in labor for me. And it was either her life or my life. She told the doctor to save the baby's life, and we're both still here today. She's had Alzheimer's for 21 years, and I'm her caregiver, and I'm proud to be here, and I'm proud that she's still with us, that I'm able to care for her.
Thank you for your testimony. We really appreciate it. Thanks. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony.
Hi, my name is Georgine Maniscalchi Edwards. I live in North Kingstown. Thank you for letting me testify. I think it's really interesting that this bill, like so many others, is in the Finance Committee. Because medicine, it turns out, is a money-making enterprise, especially in our country and in our state, where we have made it an important part of the economy. That is great for the medical practitioners and the people who get jobs in that industry, but the majority of us are just ordinary people who may sometimes have some health problems and need some help and treatment. And I, for one, definitely have felt always that I am just a commodity. When I go into a medical practice, they're just trying to deal with me as fast as possible and bill my insurance company. And my insurance company keeps changing depending on where I'm working, where my husband's working, whether our doctor even accepts that insurance or decides to drop it for some reason. I have 2 children. In our family of 4, our records are all over the place because we've had so many different practitioners who are parts of different networks over the years. And you know how the doctor's offices have to have like one whole administrative person at least, if not several, just to deal with the paperwork and the administration and the logistics? Well, a family really needs that person also, and we don't have one, and it's confusing. And please pass Medicaid for all. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it. Next caller. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman and members of the committee, for your time this evening. My name is Hannah Stern, testifying on behalf of the ACLU of Rhode Island in very strong support of H 5787. We've submitted written testimony, so I'll be very brief, but in short, this bill is designed to promote equity and builds upon the really important work of the Reproductive Privacy Act, which the Chamber passed which the General Assembly passed in 2019, and which guaranteed the right to safe and legal abortion in Rhode Island for all individuals. This right should not just apply to should apply to all individuals, regardless of financial circumstances. And what this legislation would appropriately just ensure is that important tenets of both economic equity and reproductive equity are being codified in our laws and provided to all individuals. So, thank you very much for your time. We urge passage of this legislation. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Stay safe, please. Thank you. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony.
Hello, my name is Linda, and I'm testifying with regards to Bill H 5787, and I am definitely opposed to this. If my tax dollars are going to be used, I would prefer them to be used to support pregnant women and to possibly assist people with adoption.
Well, thank you very much for your testimony. It's very important to us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony.
Elizabeth Bellata Hoke, and I'm opposing the abortion on demand part of this state budget. I think that if abortion is a choice, we should pay for our choices, and we shouldn't force others to pay for those choices that we make. I instead urge the committee and the lawmakers in Rhode Island to fund programs that help families and children
in need so that underserved populations are truly helped.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next caller, please. Welcome. You're on House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony.
Hi, this is Kate Maloney. Do I just start?
Yes, you can proceed, please.
Okay, thank you so much. So, good evening, members of the Rhode Island House Finance Committee. My name is Kate Maloney, and I'm the New England Regional Coordinator for Students for Life of America. I'm here today to represent the pro-life interests for the students of Rhode Island, such as those at Brown University and other schools where the pro-life generation is making their voices heard. I urge you to oppose House Bill 5787, also referred to as the Equality Abortion Coverage Act, because of the extreme inequality and prejudice that would be allowed against the preborn in law and against those who love and value them. In a state where abortion access is unlimited and the right to an abortion is codified in the state's law due to the Freedom of Choice Act, it is in this committee's best interest to respect the consciences of its taxpayers and to ensure that public funds are not used for abortion. Recently, Students for Life of America's Institute for Pro-Life Advancement released a poll and found that 7 out of 10 millennials and Gen Z want to vote on abortion-related policy. More than 7 out of 10 expressed support for limitations on abortion, and almost 5 in 10 do not support forcing all Americans, regardless of their beliefs, to pay for abortion. Rhode Island has numerous options for women who are facing an unplanned pregnancy. There are federally qualified health care centers, which outnumber Planned Parenthood 16 to 1 and outnumber Planned Parenthood services. Pregnancy help centers, which offer free ultrasounds, pregnancy tests, and material support, and enrich the individual, not profit from them. If the Finance Committee wants public funds to enrich the lives of women and families, it should allocate these funds for foster care adoption initiatives and pregnancy resource centers that serve the community by recognizing the dignity of every human person. In conclusion, Rhode Island has consistently withheld public funds from abortion and should continue to do so because pregnancy is not a disease cured by abortion. Let's be clear. If your health care kills people on purpose, you're doing it wrong. I urge you to oppose the passage of House 5787 and to continue a legacy of funding life-affirming, nonviolent health care.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it. Thank you. Next caller. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Okay, hello. My name is Arden Reynolds. I'm testifying on behalf of myself in support of Bill H5628, the Medicare for All bill. 2.5 years ago, I was hit by a car in a crosswalk, leaving me with a broken pelvis and sacrum. I was taken to the hospital and was there for 10 days. After 10 days, I was still unable to do anything on my own. It is incredibly hard to do anything with a broken pelvis. It is hard to put on socks. It is excruciating to use the bathroom. It is impossible to get in and out of bed. I was still completely unable to be independent after 10 days, and all of my doctors, my OT, my PT, my orthopedic doctor, told me that I needed to stay at least another 5 days for intensive in-person rehab. But my insurance wouldn't pay for me to stay. And so I had to leave despite having nowhere to go, despite not being able to move in and out of bed. I was lucky enough that my parents were able to take 2 weeks off from work and come live with me, taking care of me the way that the hospital should have been. They helped me transfer in and out of bed and helped me use the bathroom. They brought me food and made sure that I took my medicine. I had a lot of time in bed in the subsequent weeks and a lot of time to think about the unconscionable treatment of the insurance company, which shows so clearly that they cared far more about profit over people. They disrespected my doctors by ignoring their recommendations, but more shockingly, they disrespected me by showing that they cared not one iota for my ability to be a healthy, functioning human being. They were not concerned about putting me out on the street, not concerned that I had just experienced a traumatic, life-altering event, not concerned that I could not do anything for myself. I was appalled that in a so-called developed country, healthcare was so poor because of the inhumanity of insurance companies. I was able to heal because I was lucky enough to have my parents help me, but being healthy shouldn't be a matter of privilege. People's health should not be something that can be commodified, where removed companies can determine the well-being of someone's life based on a price tag. I'm sure you agree. And we have the chance to make sure that health is not determined by money. With this bill, Medicare for All, we can ensure that all people have quality health care for as long as they need to be healthy and well.
And thank you for
Human
your
health
testimony.
is a basic human right. I have one more sentence. Human health is a basic human right, so let us make the right choice to pass this bill and ensure that we are putting people over profit. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Barrick.
Please proceed.
Okay, I want to oppose this Bill 5787. It's unthinkable that we would be required to pay for abortion. It's the murder of the most innocent children. It's a barbaric procedure in a civilized society. I ask, please oppose the Equality and Abortion Coverage Bill 5787.
Thank you for your brief testimony. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next caller, please. And I want to continue to thank all of our guests who are calling in and observing the time limits. You're helping us get to everyone who wants to speak.
Excuse me, Chairman.
Yes.
May I be identified as having attended today?
Yes, absolutely. Did you get it? Okay, great.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Again, we're trying to make contact with our guests who are calling in from different places. And thanks for your participation. It's not hard in this, I mean, it is hard in this day and time, but you're making democracy work by calling in. We thank you for that.
Looks like no one's picking up, Chairman. I have a motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
It's a legitimate motion. That Rockstar's good. That's a good sandwich, I gotta tell you.
Please straight over. Right across from Benny's Park Ave. Where Benny's used to be on Park Ave.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know. We should go there one of these. That's near your house.
Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Hi, my name is Meghna. Meghna Nandi. I'm a resident at 162 Irving Ave in Providence, Rhode Island, and I am testifying in support of H5787, the Equality and Abortion Coverage Act. So I'm testifying as a Providence resident and a future family medicine physician to show my support of this bill, which would eliminate state laws that prevent health insurance coverage for abortion for state employees and folks in the Medicaid program. So we already know Rhode Island voters believe we should protect the right to abortion, and the General Assembly has already protected that right by passing the Reproductive Privacy Act a couple years ago. So therefore, according to Rhode Island state law, abortion is reproductive health care, which all people have the legal right to access. The issue at hand today with this bill, therefore, is if access to safe legal abortion is actually equitable in the state of Rhode Island. Currently, it is not. There are state laws that withhold health insurance coverage for abortion, specifically from state employees and publicly insured individuals with Medicaid coverage. These laws essentially make abortion inaccessible by rendering it unaffordable for many state employees and publicly insured folks. On the other hand, individuals with private insurance that covers abortion or individuals from high-income backgrounds with greater discretionary funds are more easily able to access abortion. For this reason, this law is inherently unjust and perpetuates existing health disparities across both race and income. Because as Black, Indigenous, and people of color, due to systemic racism, are more likely to have low-wage work and be publicly insured. Finally, passing this bill is especially urgent given that we are living through a pandemic. Barriers to healthcare are already exacerbated, and our communities are facing significant financial insecurity.
15 seconds, please.
Oh, what?
That's 15 seconds, please. We had a 2-minute time limit.
Okay. As a medical student going into family medicine, I have rotated in various primary care clinics and healthcare for many patients and families this past year. I've seen that when healthcare services are unaffordable, patients are forced to make the impossible choice between their healthcare and providing for their children and families. Let's do the right thing and pass Bill H5787, the Equality and Abortion Coverage Act, to ensure that the people of Rhode Island, no matter their job or how much money they have, never have to choose between what's best for their bodies and their health and what they need to do to support their children and families. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your testimony. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Hi, my name is Kate Orchard, and I'm here to testify as a social worker, public health policy student, and a voter from Barrington, Rhode Island, in support of House Bill 5809, the Percentage Income Payment Plan. As a social worker, I've worked with countless individuals who are struggling to make ends meet and pay for their utilities, while also worried about paying for other necessities like food, rent, and medical care. Meanwhile, individuals in the 1% are benefiting from the profits of industries that provide fossil fuels, medical care, and food. I envision a future in Rhode Island where wealth is redistributed so that everyone can afford their basic necessities, rather than one where the rich hoard resources while the working class labors on their behalf. Please show that you're listening to the struggling, unemployed, and low-income people of Rhode Island and communities of color who need relief from energy insecurity today, and vote in support of House Bill 5809. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate, for your information. Next caller. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your testimony and name, please.
Hi, yes, my name is Ann Phelps, and I just want to say that I'm not happy. I do not want to pay for the abortion of other women. I think that women who are for abortion, they should be the ones to pay for it if they're that excited about the ripping apart of a baby inside a mother's womb, and that's what it is, and we all know that's what it is. So that is that's really all I have to say. And, God is watching. And I think the men, especially the men in the Senate, ought to be the ones to stand up to the women in the Senate. I think you guys are afraid of them. And women, yes, they will pay for their actions, but men need to push for the right to life, because I know you all know scientifically what goes on in that womb, and that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony. It's important to us. Have a good night. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony.
Yes, hi. My name is Charles Strnisty. That's Strniste. I live in Situate. And my testimony is that as one who is strongly opposed to abortion, I am also deeply opposed to the use of my tax dollars to kill unborn babies. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I also have my wife sitting here who's going to offer her thoughts as well.
Okay, she has to be brief as you were, sir. Thank you.
Yes, she will be. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Mary Strnisty. I'm also a resident of Situate, and I am also very strongly opposed to my tax dollars being used to kill unborn babies. And to me, it's a question of conscience, and I just cannot support this bill.
Well, thank you for your testimony too, ma'am. It's important to us. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Have a
That's
great.
it?
That's it. Okay, thank you. All right. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony.
My name is Elaine Pegnam.
You can proceed, please.
Thank you. When I went online to see how many abortions are performed in Rhode Island, I couldn't help noticing questions that other people ask. For example, how much are abortions in Rhode Island? Does insurance cover abortions? Does Rhode Island Medicaid cover abortions? Does Planned Parenthood give free abortions? That suggests to me that cost is a major factor when a woman is considering an abortion. I can't begin to imagine how many more babies' lives will be lost if we, the taxpayers, begin funding free abortions. My husband Richard and I are adamantly opposed to abortion. It goes against God's law, against natural law, and is against our Catholic faith. The idea of using our tax dollars to fund this heinous act is absolutely abhorrent to both of us. Please do not pass 5787. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. It's well appreciated.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thanks. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for having me today. My name is Brian Drury, and I'm here to testify as an emergency medicine physician resident, and more importantly, as a person who grew up in Rhode Island. I wish to voice my support for the bills that would bring about a Medicare for all in Rhode Island and initiate long overdue audits of existing insurance systems, specifically Bill 5628, 5449, and 6046. So just in my short career as a new physician, I've been seeing entirely too many individuals who do not have access to quality health care or are underinsured. Creating a comprehensive insurance program would make sure that every Rhode Islander has access to health care that is free at point of service. The fact that anyone would be denied health care, be forced to ration care, or risk bankruptcy for receiving care is completely unethical and quite frankly appalling. This is an issue that not only affects my patients, but myself as well. For years prior to medical school training, I worked as a wildland firefighter. Because of the temporary status of my job, I consistently didn't qualify for or was too financially insecure to be able to afford quality insurance. I forfeited important preventative care healthcare services and did not establish the much-needed primary care physician relationship that is vital for long-term health. You have the chance to stop this cycle of inadequate healthcare delivery by considering these bills. In closing, I wish to say that for-profit healthcare is an 80-year-old experiment that has proven to be woefully inadequate to the task of delivering modern-day healthcare. We cannot continue to allow private insurance companies to keep everyday working-class people from getting access to quality healthcare simply to increase their profit margins. You have the power and obligation to listen to your constituents and be innovators in creating a 21st century healthcare system that works for everyone. Thank you so much for your attention and time.
Thank you, Brian, for your testimony. We appreciate that. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and testimony.
Yeah, this is John Simmons.
Okay, you can proceed, John.
All right. All my testimony for Rhode Island is that I would like it. The taxpayer money that we are about to pay for does not go toward this agenda that is being proposed by a certain party. I think it will lead us down a more dark path than we are already going down. It does not feel fair that my hard-earned tax money goes towards these actions and deeds. And I think we would be wiser to direct the tax money towards better things and not this. And that's basically my testimony.
Well, thank you very much for that. We appreciate it. It's helpful. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
Mm-hmm. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Good evening, Chairman Abney and the members of the Finance Committee. Thank you for allowing me to testify before you today. My name is John Cohn. I am a district sales manager for Coca-Cola in Waterford, Connecticut, which serves the southern portion of Rhode Island from Westerly up to North Kingstown and over to Newport. I'm also a lifelong Rhode Island resident. I started with Coke 23 years ago as a merchandiser, and I progressed through the Coke system from a driver to an account rep and now to my current role. I'm testifying before you today to urge you to oppose H5715, a large, unfair beverage tax that will hurt Rhode Island's working families, local businesses, and their employees. This new tax will directly impact my job and put it at risk. Last year, while the state and country shut down, my coworkers and I still came to work. We worked to make sure grocery store shelves were stocked with important products for Rhode Island families like juices, bottled water, sports drinks, and your favorite soft drinks. Rhode Islanders have suffered job losses and business closures because of the lockdowns brought on by the coronavirus. I'm thankful that I still have mine. We need to ease our burdens, not add to them, so we can recover from this historic downturn. This tax is unfair to people who've been struggling to make ends meet this past year. Now would be the worst time to impose a tax that places a larger burden on the people least able to afford it and threaten good jobs like mine. There has to be a better way to address our state's needs than with an unproductive tax that targets working people, our local small businesses, and their employees. I urge you to oppose H5715. Thank you for your time and allowing me to speak today.
Thank you for your testimony, John. We appreciate that. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Good evening, Chairman and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to let me testify before you. My name is Kroll Jr. I'm an account manager with Coca-Cola Northeast. I've been working with Coca-Cola since 2007, where I started off in the warehouse building pallets. Coke supported me with opportunities to advance through the company to the position I'm currently in. I service the Newport, Middletown, Jamestown, and Narragansett areas. I'm testifying to oppose H5715. As an employee of the beverage industry, I'm concerned this bill will affect my job and my fellow coworkers. Not only the beverage industry, but the small businesses I see and work with every day. I've heard from many of my customers in the area that are also extremely concerned about this bill. These restaurants and bars are still struggling from the fallout of the COVID pandemic. As they open back up and get going, everyone is noticing and feeling the effects of almost all expenses has gone up. Now with the tax, it just adds another expense to an already crippled industry. If these businesses are able to return to pre-COVID numbers, they're going to need that money to recover from what they've lost over the past year and 2 months, not to pay an extra tax. If the bill will further hurt the industry and will ultimately lead to more job loss, possibilities of even more closures, this bill will just make it easier for people to go across the border and ultimately a loss in business for the state of Rhode Island. A tax is not going to help people make better choices. That's only a choice they can make. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony.
Hello, this is Peter Nartino. Can you hear me?
I sure can. Proceed, sir.
Great, thank you. I'm Peter Nartino, and I'm testifying on behalf of the Rhode Island Poor People's Campaign. We support this PIP Act. Access to water and utilities is a matter of life and death, and that's always the case, but it's even more so true in times like these when we have a pandemic. The Poor People's Campaign has identified 5 interlocking injustices. That's systemic racism, poverty and inequality, the war economy and militarism, ecological devastation, and the false narrative of religious nationalism. We demand an end to all of these injustices, and obviously poverty and inequality are in particular addressed by this PIP Act, and that's the reason why we support it. I'm not going to throw all sorts of numbers at you over the phone, but I refer to a written testimony that we submitted last week where there are many, many details about the situation in Rhode Island, how many people are poor, how they're distributed over various groups, and enactment of the PIP Act is really vital in addressing one of the inequalities that we're talking about. That's all my testimony. If you have any questions, I'm available.
Well, thank you for your testimony, sir. We appreciate it. Have a great evening.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and testimony.
My name is Shane Ward.
You can proceed, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate your time and the senator's time today. I'm calling on behalf of this program. This program needs to be passed. It's going to be helping a lot of people, okay, especially what we went through last year with the virus. especially hit the hardest were the low income, the elderly, and the disabled. There's really a lot of tough choices back then, and the bills piling up, and one thing after another. Last year, I lost my mother due to her dementia, and it just made it really harder on us. And it's like this year, it's like every time you turn around, something else is going on. And we struggled, but we got through so far. But when it comes down to people having to make a choice on what they're going to pay the bills on, either medical, food, mortgage, or electric or gas, that's a tough choice. And it shouldn't have to come down to that. You know, the people of the state should come first. You have to look out for those that need the help. And as I said before, we're not looking for a handout. We're looking for a hand up. And there's a difference between them two. A hand up is when someone gets help from someone, they brush themselves off, and they do better with their life.
Thank you for your testimony, Shane. We appreciate it. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Have a good night and take care. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Good evening, Chairman Abney and members of the committee. Thank you for allowing me to testify today. My name is Scott Adams, a lifelong resident of Rhode Island, currently residing in West Warwick. I am an account manager for Coca-Cola and Waterford, Connecticut, which services the southern half of Rhode Island. I started there over 22 years ago, and I've had several career advancements throughout the years. I'm testifying before you today to ask you to oppose Bill H5715, a beverage tax that will hurt Rhode Island working families, businesses, and their employees. As an employee in the beverage industry, I'm concerned about the economic impact this tax will put on my job, as well as local businesses and working families, struggling to get by in this most difficult year we've had, and still going through. Not to mention the reality of border residents going out of state to do their shopping to avoid paying these extra taxes. This same tax has been implemented in other cities throughout the United States and have had devastating impact on their local businesses in those cities. People have gone to other locations to buy their beverages and other grocery needs. Businesses will suffer because of this. Being in this business as long as I have met many great business owners struggling to get by. This tax would mean more out-of-pocket expenses for them, as well as increased price of products for their customers. I'm a proud employee of Coca-Cola and take pride in my job. We worked very hard throughout this last year, bringing our goods and services to customers throughout this pandemic. After the year we have had, now is not the time to be adding extra taxes. The focus should be on getting people back to work. Businesses are closing their doors because of the lack of help caused by this pandemic. The fact of the matter is lower income households have a higher obesity rate. Rhode Island has one of the nation's best benefits program with a higher unemployment rate than other states. Look at states with a marginal unemployment benefits and you'll see the unemployment rate is half of what Rhode Island's is. Rhode Island should be encouraging people to get back to work, not rewarding them to stay home. Maybe you could reduce these benefits and encourage people to get back to work. There are plenty of jobs out there right now. This is why I'm asking you to oppose Bill H5715. Thank you for allowing me to speak today.
And thank you for your testimony. It's important to us, sir.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony.
Wonderful. Hi, my name is Mary Albert, and I'm a 24-year-old educator in Providence. May I begin?
Yes, you may.
Great. So I'm calling to testify in support of Senate Bill H5628. I work with a student population of low-income students and have strong relationships with the families of most of my students. And I know that many of these families are not currently insured. This year, I saw too many cases where there were potential signs of COVID, and families were avoiding medical attention because of their insurance status and their negative experiences more broadly with the Medicare system in our country right now. So as a result, COVID spread to more people in those families, and students I worked with had to miss several weeks of school as a result. I can't overstate the physical and mental toll
on the students and families I support of their insurance status if they're not able to afford it. I want the 10-year-olds in my class to be able to focus on the joys of learning and the silliness of connecting with their peers, not the fear of their own health and their parents' health. And beyond the concern for the families I work with, I'm also limited in my own career because I can't afford the cost of private health care. Currently, I'm working in a traditional classroom and have health care through my job. However, I'd like to work as a freelance teaching artist because I think I could make more of an impact in the lives of young people in Providence outside of a traditional school setting. However, I'm limited in my need for health insurance. I want to be able to live in a state where I can design my life without being dependent on my employer for well-being. I believe my students deserve to grow up in a state where they do not feel these constraints. They deserve healthcare justice in the form of a comprehensive healthcare system, and I hope you'll choose to make this a reality.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Have a good day.
Have a great day. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Chairman Abney and members of the Finance Committee, thank you for having me here today. My name is Amanda Skinner, and I am President and CEO of Planned Parenthood of Southern New England. We are Rhode Island's largest provider of sexual and reproductive health care, seeing over 10,000 patients annually at our Providence Health Center. In addition to full-spectrum reproductive health care, including abortion, we are a recognized patient-centered medical home offering primary care. Today, I am here to give our strongest possible support to House Bill 5787, the Equality and Abortion Coverage Act. I would like to thank Representative Liana Kassar for sponsoring this legislation and thank the 26 representatives who are co-sponsors. Among these are Representative Deb Ruggiero and Representative Jean-Philippe Barras, who are on this committee. In 2019, the House of Representatives led the way in making history when it passed the Reproductive Privacy Act, sponsored by Chairwoman Anastasia Williams. Rhode Island now has protected the right to safe legal abortion no matter what happens at the Supreme Court. This was an important step forward in protecting bodily autonomy and the human right to health care. But our work isn't done yet. Now we need to take that same energy and fight to make sure every person can truly access safe legal abortion. Put simply, the right to abortion does not mean much if you don't have access to affordable care. PPS&E strongly supports HB 5787, the Equality and Abortion Coverage Act. If enacted, this critical bill would finally repeal the bans that deny abortion coverage for more than 300,000 Rhode Islanders insured by Medicaid and for state employees. Now is the time to repeal these discriminatory bans and ensure that when we say people have a right to control their bodies, lives, and futures, that it truly means everyone, regardless of who you are, where you live, or your income. These laws can and must be changed. If we want a healthcare system and a political system that reflect our values of equity and justice, we must put an end to these laws, which enshrine and reinforce the legacy structures of racism and classism. The Equality and Abortion Coverage Act is a simple matter of fairness and equity. We know that bans on abortion coverage impact Black and brown people and people with low incomes the hardest. This is a call for racial and economic justice in our healthcare and society. Together, we can do our small part to answer this call by passing the Equality and Abortion Coverage Act. For those who say it can't be done in Rhode Island, I say it can. In fact, just last year, our friends in Maine passed Medicaid coverage of abortion. If Maine can do it, so can Rhode Island. It is time for Rhode Island to stand with the 16 other states like Maine, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, and New York that use state funds to ensure equity in healthcare by covering abortion under Medicaid. We must also end discrimination against state employees. Right now, our ban on state employee coverage means we stand with states like Mississippi, Texas, and Utah. I am confident that Rhode Island can join the majority of states that do not tell state employees what healthcare they can have. In conclusion, I would like to thank you for allowing me to highlight PPS&E's enthusiastic support of the Equality and Abortion Coverage Act.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and your brief testimony, please.
Perfect. My name is Corinne Peralt, and I just want to testify about the importance of healthcare for all. I am someone who I'm surrounded by a lot of people who work very, very hard, full-time, who struggle despite working 40-hour weeks and not even necessarily having minimum wage jobs to get the health care that they need that's affordable. I think when you're talking about health care, having a productive workforce, having a workforce that has longevity and energy and willingness to even, I think, do a good job relies so heavily on health care, whether that's dental, actual checkups, and even mental health care. Additionally, I would say that in the pandemic, several people lost jobs or were away from work for varying amounts of time. And the fact that so much healthcare is dependent upon employment, I find to be problematic, as if those who are not working are not worthy of health or well-being. I know there are state programs, but those only go so far, and I have found as someone who's had to use state health insurance that even if you can afford maybe the most basic form of insurance, it does not always mean that it is affordable. It does not always mean that, you know, say you need a certain procedure done. I myself and several friends have been hit by unexpected medical bills that for one reason or another were not covered by our insurance. Yeah, and then you can't afford to pay that. So I think it's important.
Well, thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it. Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Thank you, Chairman Abney and members of the committee. My name is Jennifer Wood, and I'm the Executive Director of the Rhode Island Center for Justice. In partnership with the George Wiley Center, we represent low-income Rhode Islanders to advocate for access to affordable, sustainable utilities. We represent utility consumers before the PUC, the BPUC, and in the courts. I'm testifying in support of House 5809, percent of income utility rates. In the last utility rate case, the PUC established a two-tier discount for low-income Rhode Island utility consumers at 25 and 30%. The PUC also required data collection and study to determine if those discounts would enable low-income Rhode Islanders to keep up with their utility bills. Then, in March 2020, the pandemic struck. Over 17% of Rhode Islanders lost their jobs. There was no way for many Rhode Islanders to keep up with their utility bills, even with 25 and 30% discounts. The pandemic shone a light on the disproportionate impact of this crisis on communities of color. Many newly unemployed Rhode Islanders were protected from utility shutoffs this year due to the PUC's critically important emergency utility shutoff moratorium. But they will exit this pandemic with large arrearages and will be vulnerable to shutoff. The pandemic also shone a light on the fact that utilities are life-saving, health-protecting, and critical for both work and remote education. We need a new approach to utility rates in Rhode Island for low-income families and people who get caught up in a crisis and lose their jobs or lose income. This bill provides the solution that is used in a dozen other states. With a percent of income rate structure for low-income Rhode Islanders, when someone loses their job, their utility bill is adjusted downward. When they're back on their feet, they return to pay the regular residential rate and contribute to support their neighbors. Thank you for considering this critically important legislation, and I want to thank the bill sponsors and the committee and urge passage of this tremendously important bill.
Thank you for your testimony and advocacy. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Hello, my name is Tyler Rowley. I'm the president of Servants of Christ for Life. I'm opposed to killing unborn children in the womb. My testimony is thus. We've gone from safe, legal, and rare. That's what we used to pretend we wanted abortions to be, safe, legal, and rare. Now we're at taxpayer-funded abortion on a child in the womb of any age. And don't forget, most of you voted to take away the rights of a baby in the womb who a mother chooses to carry when that baby is killed by a third-party attacker. You did that last year, most of you. Don't ever forget how far we have come and how diabolical you have become in the process. And that's why sin is so scary. There's a reason Christ likened sin to yeast, because once you let a little bit inside, It spreads and grows exponentially. And after a little time, the yeast looks like something completely different, a new creature. I'd rather talk about sin than abortion today because every one of you up there knows abortion is wrong. What's there to discuss? You're grown men. You have an innocent human being growing naturally in his mother's womb. It's wrong to kill that baby. And every single one of you knows that. The real question, what this is really all about, is how long you Rhode Island politicians are going to accommodate the sins that have crept into your life and have leavened over the years to the point that you now legislate the deaths of innocent preborn children. Your sins that started small and have grown over the years, the lying, the cheating, the deal-making, the celebrating of debauchery and evil of all kinds, and now the killing. Haven't you gluttoned yourselves, I'm almost done, sir, haven't you gluttoned yourselves with the trappings of this world enough already to see that they don't make you happy? And I can tell you how the story ends. You die a miserable, sinful tragedy. The other option is to serve God with the 15 to 20 years you have left on this planet. Taxpayer-funded abortion is just another example of the morally compromising the lives of the unborn. May God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, sir. It's important to us. Thanks. Okay, next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
My name is Lee Spencer.
Okay, you can proceed with your testimony, sir. Do you have something on in the background? Do you have a TV or radio on in the background, sir?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. We're ready for your brief testimony now.
All right, it's important to me that the energy bill, the percentage of income payment plan, be based on my income because I live on a fixed income, which means I only have so much to live off of. I have to pay rent, buy food, medicine, clothes, and pay utilities. Also, I have to travel, use travel expense. Already, I have to lower my quality of life. By that I mean I have to buy clothes from the Salvation Army or Goodwill. Travel by bus because I can't afford a car. Buy generic brand medicine. I even have to shop for food bargains. I know that if PIP was instituted here in Rhode Island, it would improve my quality of life. And that's all I can say about that.
Thank you for your testimony. It's important to us. We appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Next caller, please. Welcome to House Finance. We're ready for your name and brief testimony, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Randall Rose. I'm in favor of House Bill 5809, the percentage of income payment plan. We know that a lot of people have been struggling with the coronavirus and the lack of employment, and what the bill does is it just makes more an opportunity for people to be able to afford utilities when their income is too low to be able to afford the current prices. And I think this is very much needed. People already are struggling deciding whether to pay one bill or another bill, and they can't afford to pay all their bills in this bill. And this proposal has been before the General Assembly for many years now. It's time to pass it. Please make sure that people can get some relief and pass the percentage of income payment plan. Thank you.
Thanks for your testimony, Randall. Appreciate it, sir. Okay, thank you very much. It seems that we exhausted the list that we had left from last Thursday's hearing. So if there are no further questions, then last Thursday's hearing is closed.